We just got a brand new round of interviews with Blizzard devs where they started foreshadowing Northrend already and how it has changed over the years, how we can expect the Frozen Throne and the old areas to have changed significantly. However, they kinda dropped a little teaser in there as well as how based on how good the reception was, they don't plan to stop on the return to the old world and the revamps. They mentioned Kalimdor and the Eastern Kingdoms, zones like Elwynn Forest, Durotar and Stonetalon mountains. Realistically, finding a new isle hidden gets old after a while, and it does look like they might already have things planned even after the Worldsoul saga is over. So what is everything we currently know? With the entire Void Invasion, I tried using Polybazz's new feature that is creating your own comics with just a few buttons. I mean, you can see for yourself how awesome this paladin defending against the Void is with literally a single sentence. Just enter your keywords, brief plot descriptions, and the software will generate your own manga. Best of all, you can do this completely free 3 times a day. You can really build whatever you want, your own characters, you can combine established ones, and you can all put them together in a comic. So make sure to click the link in the description below and check out Polybazz's web platform. So yesterday Blizzard did a really cool sort of half-official video talking with a few developers about what is coming in Northrend and the lessons that were learned, as well as feedback from the saga so far, and especially Midnight, which was kinda revolutionary with the revamp of Kotalas. Very interestingly, it's still January and they're already hyping up Northrend even though Midnight is not even out yet, which does indicate that the last Titan will probably be announced on this year's BlizzCon and maybe up for release sometime next year, which would honestly line up with the timeline they gave us for the Worldsoul saga and how it is going to end by 2030. It's likely that Midnight will get one major patch this year, and that patch will wrap up what we know of the main story and how it's going to go, so that they can kinda spoil it with the last Titan announcement. Now, what they hear in this video though is something that no one kinda saw coming, and it's not really even Northrend, it's the fact that they are indeed discussing revamping zones aside from the Worldsoul saga in Kalimdor and the Eastern Kingdoms. In the video itself about Northrend, there isn't too much new stuff that we don't already know, just kind of their thoughts and experiences and like some challenges and what's going on with Midnight and what they plan to do. According to feedback, I mean, the players responded really well, especially to Kotalas, even though they were worried about going to the old world in an expansion, as usually we're getting new zones or cultures, and based on this feedback, they plan to expand. They did reveal some interesting things in regards to Northrend, like how iconic it is and how they have a huge burden of doing justice for the legacy of Wrath of the Lich King. They strongly hinted that there will be a return to the Frozen Throne, which really makes us guess how, and also Vermeer's Temple, although that is kind of completely expected with Dragonflight and the recent Dragon development. I mean, something is obviously going to happen there, especially with the return of Iridicon. Now, I recently released a video on the channel with the recent hints that we have, so what we can kind of expect from Northrend is in like underground stuff, Titan stuff, as well as constant hints about the Scourge and their activity and how there is a part of Northrend we had never seen. And in this new video, they kind of started talking about some of these things, officially confirming some changes themselves, like how we are not just going back to Northrend like it was back in 2008. They kind of hated that we had such places on Azeroth that were there for you to just kind of finish the story and they're now stuck in time. They want to make Azeroth a more living world. So since it has been a lot of years, they're telling a completely different story now, and Northrend is going to be different with clearly transformed areas, as they say. Not just post-Wrath, but current events that have modified Northrend, very likely involving some possible Void Light involvement, definitely the Titans, and as they say, we will see familiar anchors and the like. However, they kinda in this video dropped a crazy teaser by the end, hinting that this revamp of Kotalas in Northrend is kinda just a start. It kinda inspired them, and they kinda talked about what they have in store for World of Warcraft in the future, which could even be an answer for everyone wondering like what is going to be happening to WoW after the saga is complete. As they said, the return to the old world has been very well received. I mean, they're encouraged by it as well, and they're also experienced now too. They also talked about how thorough some revamps have to be, so that you're not in a new area but just a few meters down you're like back in 2004. They mentioned that we can continue to do things like this and go back and tell stories to all these iconic areas even from Warcraft 3, how time has changed there, and there could of course be new stories to tell. First of all, they mentioned Elwynn Forest, and Durotar, which obviously has been super relevant with player housing, but not completely revamped, of course, or changed in how they want to focus on areas like this. But they also mentioned kind of more far-flung places like Stonetalon Mountains that have a whole lot of story to tell, as well as a lot of history. As we know, they kind of already did something like this back with Cataclysm, so WoW really has two layers of stories, the classic one and the revamped ones, and the new Cataclysm zones. Obviously, some zones have completely changed, some not so much, but it is important to keep in mind that by the time the saga is over, it will be 2 decades since Cataclysm, and in-game with the time skip and such, it's like 30 years essentially at the least. That is a whole lot of time in game, and so many of these zones and stories have definitely changed. I mean, Stonetalon was kind of just a random zone they mentioned, but I'm sure it's just one of the zones that they're talking about with a lot of history that have kind of been forgotten. I mean, we still got a lot of places on Azeroth completely stuck in time, with Northrend, for example, being one of the most notable ones, with these crazy gnomes taking so long to get their capital back that really by this time, I mean, they might as well just build a new one. The way they kind of described it though is also weird. I mean, there have been some heavy indications that even in Midnight we are going to see revamps to more zones of the northern eastern kingdoms, like the areas of former Lordron, but these are certainly not going to be on the scale of Quotala, so it is possible even in the saga that more things like this could happen. For example, we know Silitus and that sort of Sargeras there is going to be relevant, so the surrounding areas could become relevant as well, even in the last Titan. I mean, however, if they plan to do more expansions in Kalimdor, for example, that could indicate a lot of things for the future of WoW, as in something is probably going to happen there, and we're not just going to go to a new world or having to invade something. While they are setting up new worlds like Nashabor as well as Avaloran and the new Arati kingdoms, realistically there are only so many shrouded islands that can be discovered before it just kind of starts getting annoying. So like an expansion as a revamp into Kalimdor could turn out to be incredibly interesting, especially since they just revamped Eastern Kingdoms. And honestly, with this and the Worldsoul saga, by the time they're done with it, I mean, most of the zones so far in World of Warcraft would be revamped. I think they're also realizing that marketing-wise, this actually works best, as right now, I mean, realistically, most of the players are actually older players. They have a ton of players playing the classic versions of the game, and a lot more people would be inclined to see those areas on retail updated, as opposed to some brand new storyline with brand new characters that not many people would particularly care about. Overall though, I do think it is actually an excellent direction for World of Warcraft to go into. I actually do think it is a better idea to refine what we already have instead of constantly adding more and like constantly expanding. That might even be better for new players as well, as remember when you're kind of interested in like this new game or a franchise and it has like a million different books, zones, additions, expansions, and you kind of feel like you can never get into it. WoW is already kind of like that for brand new people, so it will make sense to revamp, consolidate what we already have and bring it up to date, and also bring up some really interesting storylines. We all know the zones of Kalimdor in the Eastern Kingdoms and have seen them a million times, and it will be fun to go back there and see how the world has progressed over the years. It was also a good point that really with some zones that have so much lore and things that happened, it is definitely a bit sad that it just kind of got left in the past. Like, yeah, we did this, we did that, and completed this, but then they just kind of outlived their usefulness, and really it does feel like that sometimes when you go back to old zones and they're kind of just like these memories stuck 20 years ago, and it doesn't really feel like a living world. So it would be really interesting to see Blizzard start changing that. Thanks for watching. Check out the new specs that Blizzard is working on behind the scenes by clicking on the screen, and check out the brand new Witch lore channel that I just opened by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time.